Hello students. So let's start the lecture 3. So last lecture we have discussed about we have studied about the resistance and the basics of resistance and basic concepts related to resistance. So today we'll do the two more other passive elements like inductance and the capacitance. So we'll complete the inductance and capacitance, basics of inductance and capacitance. See here, now let's start the inductance. So from where that inductance concept came, so I will explain here. So let's say this is a plain one conductor, only a plain conductor, and the current flowing in that conductor is I. So because of the current flowing in the conductor, a magnetic field will be produced around the conductor, and since the direction of the current is upward direction, so magnetic field direction will be clockwise direction. Yeah. So because of this plane conductor, whatever magnetic field is created here, that is the weak magnetic field. Next here, see here, when instead of a plane conductor, when you are taking a coil, group of means a conductor is not taken as a plane conductor but taken as a group of coils, means coil is taken. So when current flows through a coil, then there will be a magnet. Because of this coil, magnetic field will produce, and because of that magnetic field there will be a flux. And because of this, so many because of so many turns in the coil, there will be a group of flux lines. So there will be a strong magnetic field. If we stress the coil, then group of flux line decreases and hence magnetic field weak. So because of a plane conductor, there is weak magnetic field, and because of this coil, means when you convert that plane conductor into a number of turns, um, then there will be a coil and a strong magnetic field will be there. Clear? So next, let's see the from this inductance effect. There are two laws. One law is called as the Faraday's first law, and another law is called as the Faraday's second law. So what is that Faraday first law? When conductor cuts the magnetic lines of force, and EMF induced in the conductor. See here, this conductor is because of the current flowing in the conductor, a weak magnetic field is produced, and because of that magnetic field, flux will be there. So Faraday's first law states that when a conductor cuts the magnetic lines of force, and EMF induced in the conductor. And Faraday's second law states that the EMF induced in the conductor is whatever EMF is inducing because of the flux, that EMF is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux. So let's see that Faraday's law, one conductor is placed in between the two magnetic material. This magnet is, let's say, north side of the magnet, and this magnet is behaving as a south pole. So between two magnet poles, one conductor is placed, and this conductor is, let's say, rotating conductor. And the magnetic field because of these two poles is created like this. Means the direction of magnetic field is from north pole to south pole. So because of Faraday's first law, when conductor is placed, cuts the magnetic lines of force. This conductor is rotating, means it is cutting the magnetic lines of force, then EMF will be induced in the conductor. So first Faraday law, first law is the EMF. Clear? Now whatever EMF is induced in the conductor, that EMF is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux. How this rate of change of flux is created? Because conductor is rotating, it's not stationary. Magnetic field is there, and this conductor is cutting that magnetic field. So because of that magnetic field, flux is there. If that conductor cuts the flux magnetic field, then there will be a rate of change of flux. So EMF induced in the conductor is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux. This is your Faraday's second law. So when you remove this proportionality constant, then there will be one term came here, that is minus n. N is what? N is the number of conductors. Here one conductor I have taken. So n will be 1 if so many conductors are there. So that may, if n number of conductors are there, so this n is your number of conductors. So this is the EMF. And this EMF is called as the dynamically induced EMF. Why dynamically induced EMF? Because this EMF is induced because of this conductor, and this conductor is rotating from. This conductor is rotating. This conductor is not stationary. So example, where this dynamically induced EMF created, that is the generator. In generators, whatever EMF is induced, that is because of the rotor, conductors placed on the rotors. So that EMF is called as the dynamically induced EMF. Here, now let's see the stationary or statically induced EMF. When a coil is taken, clear, and that coil is stationary, that coil or magnetic is stationary. So when a voltage is applied to a coil, current will flow, clear. Current will flow in the coil, and when current flows in the coil, then magnetic field will produce, and because of that magnetic field, flux will be generated. And that flux, if there is a rate of change of flux, then EMF will be there. So EMF is proportional to rate of change of flux. Here see, the conductor is not stationary. Coil is there, number of turns are there, and this is the your current. Since you are applying the AC voltage, so current will be also AC. This is current, and because of this current only, whatever current is flowing in this coil, because of this current only, flux is there. So nature of the flux will be also a current, like current, clear. So when you remove this proportionality constant, this term will come minus n, clear. So here this EMF is called as a statically induced EMF. Clear, means here coil is stationary. Statically induced EMF. An example is transformer. In transformer, this principle is there. Whatever EMF is induced, that is because of the coil, and statically induced EMF. What is N here? Here N is the number of turns, not the conductor. Whatever number of turns are there in that coil, so N is the number of turns. See here, what is the cause of the flux? Cause of the flux is the current. Whenever current flows in the coil, then only magnetic field will be created, and then only flux will be there. So cause of the current is your cause of the flux is the current. So flux is proportional to current. Whatever amount of current is flowing, according to that magnetic field will produce, and according to that flux will be there. So flux is proportional to your current. And what is this negative sign? This negative sign indicates that the whatever induced voltage is there, that induced voltage opposes its cause of existence. Means this voltage, this induced EMF is always oppose its cause of existence, clear. So this minus sign, negative sign, is based on the Lenz law, clear. And that Lenz law means induced EMF always opposes cause of existence, and this induced EMF is because of this flux, and this flux is because of this current, clear. So it always opposes is its cause. So this is statically induced EMF. Now, whatever induced EMF is there, when you have applied the voltage, and because of that voltage, AC voltage, current is there, and because of current, flux is there, and because of rate of change of flux, EMF is there, clear. So this EMF is related to the supply voltage. So voltage equal to N d phi by dt, and what is the this is d phi by dt is your rate of change of flux. And if there are so many number of turns in a coil, or so many number of conductors are placed between the two poles, between the magnetic poles, then there will be a flux linkage. There will not be only one flux, there will be a flux linkage. So if n number of coils are there, n number one, if one coil, n number of turns of are there present in a coil, then total flux linkage will be your n phi, and that is denoted by this term xi. So flux linkage, total flux linkage equal to n phi. So now put this in place of n phi, you can write put here. So voltage will become as a d xi by dt, clear. And also your flux is proportional to current. and your xi here, this is proportional to flux because n is number of turns are constant. So from this equation and this equation, you can say that flux linkage is proportional to your current. Clear? So when you remove this proportionality constant, one term will come that is called as the inductance. So xi equal to Li. Clear? This that is the inductance. So from here, that inductance concept is coming. Now see here. Now in place of xi, here, what is your V? Voltage equal to this induced voltage. This is the voltage, not induced EMF. This voltage equal to d xi by dt. So in place of xi, you can write as a Li. So L is the inductance that is constant. It is not changing. What is changing here? Current. Current change according to the supply voltage. Current can change. So rate of change of current. So voltage equal to L di by dt. From here you can write the inductance as V divided by di by dt. This is also inductance. Clear? So inductance is what? Voltage per unit rate of change of current. Also, see here, your xi means flux linkage equal to total flux linkage. Flux linkage across all the number of turns present in a coil. And also flux linkage equal to Li. So from these two equations, Li, you can write that Li equal to N phi. So L will be, inductance will be N phi by I. Total flux linkage divided by current. That is the inductance. So, and unit of inductance is your Henry. Clear? So this was about the basics of inductance, how inductance is coming, how what is induced EMF, what is the meaning of the negative sign present in the induced EMF, and what is dynamically induced EMF, and what is the statically induced EMF. What are the examples of dynamic induced EMF and example of statically induced EMF. Now move towards the linear inductor and the non-linear inductor. So what is a linear inductor? Linear inductor, when the inductance of the inductor is independent on the current magnitude. When the inductance of the inductor, inductance is a property of inductor. So when inductance of the inductor is independent on the current magnitude, then the inductor is called as a linear inductor. Clear? Means inductance is not depending on the current magnitude. An example of the linear inductor is air core inductor. Clear? So this here one coil is taken and the inside that coil nothing is there. That core is air. Only air is present. And here the voltage applied, and that voltage applied is taken as a variable voltage. So this is a air core inductor. And what is the inductor value? Inductor value is your L equal to inductance value, not inductor value. Inductance value equal to N phi by I. Already we have derived this formula. And this should be constant. Why this should be constant? For a linear inductance, this should be constant. And it doesn't, it should not depends on the current magnitude. So it should be, if it is constant, then only that inductor is called as a linear inductor. Yeah. And also the voltage equal to L di by dt. And this should also be a should be constant. So for a linear inductor, when you plot the graph for voltage versus di by dt, then it will become as a linear. Here it should be a constant. The slope should be constant. That is called as a linear inductor. Also phi is proportional to I. So see here, constant. So L equal to, from here you can write V divided by di by dt. So when you increasing the current as a 10%, then flux is also increasing the 10%. When you increase the current as a 90%, then flux is also increasing the same proportional. So the inductance, this is constant only. Slope is always constant. So this is called as the linear inductance. Your inductance value is not depending on the current value, and it is remains as a constant. So that is about the linear inductor. Now let's move towards the non-linear inductor. So non-linear inductor is that inductor when inductance of the inductor is depends on the current magnitude, then the inductor is called as a non-linear inductor. And the example of non-linear inductor is iron core inductor. Clear? So here one inductor I have taken, means one coil of is taken, and inside that coil iron core is there. Clear? The length of the core is, let's say, L, and the area of the core is A. And the voltage applied here is this variable voltage. So inductance is what? Total flux linkage divided by current. So if this current inductance value is changing with respect to this current value, then that inductor is called as a linear inductor. For example, when you increase, let's say this is a phi versus I current. When you increase the current, clear? When you increase the current as a 10%, the flux will also increase at, initially it will also increase at the 10%. When you increase the current as a 60%, the flux will also increase as a 60%. And when you increase the current as a 90%, the flux will become as a constant. Why this flux is coming as a constant? Because of the saturation of the magnetic material present inside this coil. That is the iron core. Because of the magnetic saturation of this magnetic material, your whatever magnetic flux is produced, that magnetic flux after sometimes after it will become as a constant. So you are increasing the current, but flux is not increasing. If flux is not increasing means your inductance value will change. Means see here, voltage versus di by dt also. After initially it is L is increasing, and after that L is constant. So your L value is depending on the what? Your L value, inductance value, is depending on the current magnitude. Clear? So this is called as the non-linear inductor. Now in your electric circuit, current equal to what? EMF divided by R, and R you can write as rho L by A. Resistance you can write as rho L by A. But for magnetic circuit, same. Current is analogous to the flux, or flux is analogous to current. MMF is analogous to EMF, or EMF is analogous to MMF. In electric circuit, there is resistance, and magnetic circuit, there is, this is reluctance. So for similarly, if you are writing I equal to V by R or EMF by R, so for magnetic circuit, you can write flux equal to MMF by S. S is your reluctance, clear? And MMF is, you can write as N into I. Your total MMF is Ni, and your reluctance is what? Reluctance is L divided by A mu. L is the length of that coil, is the area of that core, whatever length of iron core or any core, whatever you are taking, an area, and the mu is the permeability of that magnetic material. And also L equal to what? Total flux linkage divided by current. So from these two equations, equation 1 and equation 2. So substitute this equation 2 in equation 1, because here we got a flux value and here we are having the flux value. So this flux you substitute here. So if you are substituting equation 2 in equation 2, then you will get the inductance. So inductance will become as a N square mu A by L. Clear? So what is mu here? This mu is your permeability, and this mu is equal to mu naught into mu R. And mu naught is what? Mu naught is the constant value, that is 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7. And mu R is what? Mu R is your relative permeability. And for air, relative permeability, the value of relative permeability is 1 for air. For other magnetic material, it will be some value. But for air, the magnetic mu R, relative permeability equal to 1. So this what is permeability then? So permeability is the property of the medium in which magnetic flux lines are existing. So mu naught is your absolute permeability, and mu R is your relative permeability. Absolute permeability has the unit of Henry per meter, and relative permeability has no unit. For air, relative permeability, value of relative permeability equal to 1. Now this uh, equation you can this equation you can replace with respect to reluctance. So n square, now n square divide by L mu A. This mu A we take into the denominator. So this term will become n square divided by L by mu A. And L divided by mu A is what? L divided by mu A is your reluctance. That is the S value. So your inductance is this. Now let's see the your reluctance. What is the reluctance formula and what is the reluctance unit? So from here only, reluctance is what? MMF divided by flux equal to what is MMF? MMF is this N into I divided by 5. So Ni is what? N is number of turns. So ampere, and current. I is your ampere and N is your turn. So ampere turn, and the unit of flux is Weber. So unit of reluctance will be your ampere turn per Weber. Yeah. AT is your ampere turn. Now you can write the same Ohm's law in case of magnetic material also. So this formula already we have derived. So V equal to L di by dt. This is called as the Ohm's law, fifth form. And similarly, in terms of current also you can write 1 by L integration of V dt. This is the Ohm's law, sixth form. So always inductor stores energy in the form of magnetic field. That is the kinetic energy. Inductor stores in the form energy in the form of magnetic field. Also, the power dissipation in ideal conductor is equal to 0. Conductor doesn't dissipate any power, doesn't consume any power. So, but for ideal inductor, the power dissipation equal to 0 because resistance will be 0. That's why power dissipation for ideal inductor will be 0. And inductor stores energy in the form of magnetic field. So, what is the value of that energy? So power will be what? Power will be your voltage multiply with this current. This is current. By mistake I have written L. You just rectify it because voltage is L di by dt and current. So power is equal to voltage into current. Now what will be the energy? Energy will be the rate of change, this integration of power. So P dt is your energy. So when you put this here, a value of P here, so you will get the energy that half Li square. So this is the energy, magnetic energy which is stored that inductor stores. So inductor stores energy in the form of magnetic field. Now let's move towards some conclusions about the inductor. Some basic important conclusions about the inductor. First conclusion is that under steady state condition, for inductor acts as a short circuit. When that steady state condition will be there? When there is a DC supply. So under steady state condition for DC supply, inductor always acts as a short circuit. How? Let's say this inductor I have taken here and one supply voltage, and that supply voltage is having a value of Vs, and that supply voltage is DC supply. It is not changing. If it is not changing, then current produced here also will be constant, and if current produced here will be constant, then no rate of change of flux will be there. If no rate of change of flux will be there, then no voltage will be there. If no voltage is there, then inductor will act as a short circuit ideally. Clear? So let's see here, V equal to L di by dt. The rate of change of current is 0 because current is constant. So under steady state, rate of change of current is constant. If rate of change of current is constant, so voltage will be also, if no, current is constant, so rate of change of current will be 0. If rate of change of current is 0, then voltage will be 0. If voltage is 0, means potential difference is 0, means that condition is your short circuit. So under steady state condition for DC supply, inductor always acts as a short circuit. This is the first conclusion of inductor. Next, second is your this. Inductor doesn't allow sudden change of current. Since practical inductive circuits has time constant, and for sudden change of current, it is not possible to provide infinite voltage. So inductor doesn't allow sudden change of current. And that case, voltage for sudden change means T equal to 0. Clear? If T equal to 0, then here put T equal to 0, so voltage will be infinite, and that is not possible. So inductor doesn't allow sudden change of current, and the time constant, practically inductor time per circuit, time constant will be L by R. There should not be a zero time. Because of this time constant, it does not allow sudden change of current. Clear? So this is the second conclusion about the inductor. Let's move towards the third inductor. For ideal inductor, whatever internal resistance will be there, that will be equal to 0. And for practical inductor, some internal resistance will be there, and that will be very less in milliohm. So this is for ideal inductor. For ideal inductor, no resistance, internal resistance. For practical inductor, there will be some internal resistance. And example of ideal inductor is this air core inductor. And for practical, magnetic material inductor means some magnetic core material, magnetic material core you have used. So this was about the inductance. Now let's move towards the next passive element, that is the capacitance. Clear? So next is your capacitance. Now see here the basic of the capacitance. So how capacitance effect is created when the two metal plates are kept and voltage is applied to the two metal plates, and any material is placed inside in between the two plates, and that material should be your dielectric material. So whenever a dielectric material is placed between the two metal plates, and if voltage is external voltage is applied in the two metal plates, then there will be a capacitance effect. So if positive terminal is applied to this plate and negative terminal is applied to this plate, and this is your dielectric material. So because of this positive plate here, positive charge will be induced. Here, negative charge will be induced. So similarly, positive is here, near to the positive charge, negative charge will be induced in the dielectric, and near to this negative charge, positive charge will be induced. So because of the charge induction, and why this charge is inducing here? Because of this voltage. And now whatever amount of voltage you are applying, that much amount of charge will be induced here because of this dielectric material. So charge is proportional to your voltage. When you remove this proportionality constant, one term will be come here, that is called as the capacitance. Clear? So Q equal to CV. So this is these two metal plates will behave as a capacitance. And what is the working here? What it is these two metal plates are doing? It is behaving as a storage of a charge storage. So capacitance always stores the charge. So from here, capacitance equal to Q by V. The unit of capacitance is farad or coulomb per volt. This is the basics of capacitance, means from where that capacitance effect is coming. So Q equal to CV. Now derivate the Q with respect to T. Both side you derivate with respect to T. C is constant. So C cannot be changed with respect to T. So here dQ by dt. Here C dV by dt. What is dQ by dt? dQ by dt is the rate of change of charge. So rate of change of charge is your current. So current equal to C dV by dt. This is also a relation between current and voltage. That's why this is called as the Ohm's law 7th form. Next, same here, this capacitance, you can write as a I. This equation you can write as a I divided by dV by dt. So for calculation of the voltage, you have to integrate. So 1 by C integration I dt. This is also a relation between voltage and current. So wherever there is relation between voltage and current, so we can say here this is a Ohm's law 8th form. Yeah. So here uh, here from here you can say that capacitor opposes the rate of change of voltage, inductor always opposes the rate of change of current, resistance opposes the current, inductor opposes the rate of change of current, and capacitor opposes the rate of change of voltage. Okay, so three points you need to remember related to resistance, related to capacitance, and related to inductor. Now, what is the power in the inductors, capacitor? So power equal to what? Power equal to VI, and in place of I we can write as C dV by dt. And what is energy? Energy is this integration of power, P dt. So when you put this value here, you can get the energy stored in the capacitor, that is half CV square. And so power dissipation in ideal capacitor is equal to 0. Ideal capacitor or capacitor cannot consume any power. One cycle it is charging, another cycle it is discharging the energy. That energy is, and whatever that in a capacitor stores energy, that energy is it stores in the form of electric field, is potential energy. Inductors stores the energy in the form of magnetic field, and that is the kinetic energy. Capacitor stores energy in the form of electric field, that is potential energy. Resistance doesn't store any energy, it always dissipates the energy, it always in the form of heat, it always consumes the energy. That is the about the capacitor. Now let's capacitor here, how this capacitance is generated, because of the two metal plates and this dielectric. So metal plate is having one area or one length, or this dielectric material is having some property. So capacitance also you can write as this epsilon A by D. So what is A? A is the area of the plates. D is the distance between the two conducting plates. And this epsilon is called as the permittivity of the property of the material or the medium in which that material is placed. Here, this is the permittivity of the medium. So what is the permittivity? Permittivity is the property of the medium in which electric field exists. And this permittivity is equal to epsilon naught, epsilon r. Epsilon naught is your absolute permittivity and epsilon r is your relative permittivity. And the value of epsilon naught is constant, that is 8.85 into 10 power minus 12, and the unit is farad per meter. And the relative permittivity for air is equal to 1. For other materials, some value will be there, but for air, if as a air you are using as a dielectric, then that value of relative permittivity is 1. Clear? Now let's move towards the linear capacitor and the non-linear capacitor. So what is linear capacitor? When the capacitance of the capacitor is independent on the voltage magnitude, then the capacitor is called as a linear capacitor. So I equal to C dV by dt. So if this C is not depending on the current, means if C is always constant, then that capacitor will be called as a linear capacitor. See here, the relation between I and dV by dt is constant, this C here. So for linear capacitor, the relation between I and dV by dt will be like this. And Q equal to CV, so C equal to Q by V. If this is also constant, everywhere the slope is constant, then that is the linear capacitance. Your capacitance value is not depending upon the voltage, this voltage, whatever voltage magnitude is there. So that is your linear capacitor. Now next is for linear capacitor only, if you are increasing the 10% voltage, then charge will also increase the same proportional. If you are increasing the voltage as more 90%, the charge will also increase the same proportionality. So if same proportion increase in voltage and charge is same proportion, then capacitance will be constant, and it won't depends on the value of the voltage, applied voltage. So that those capacitor is called as the linear capacitor. And next is your non-linear capacitor. So for non-linear capacitor, when the capacitance of the capacitor is depending on voltage magnitude, then that capacitor is called as a non-linear capacitor. Example of non-linear capacitor is varactor diode. Varactor means variable. So varactor diode is the non-linear capacitor. Now listen some conclusions about the capacitor. Under steady state condition for DC supply, when you are giving the input as a DC supply, then capacitor always behave as a open circuit. How? Why open circuit? See here, I equal to C dV by dt. So when under steady state condition, this voltage will be constant. So if voltage is constant, then rate of change of voltage will be equal to 0. And if rate of change of voltage is equal to 0, then current will equal to 0. If current is coming as a 0, then that condition is called as the open circuit condition. So under steady state condition of for DC supply, capacitor always acts as an open circuit. Next conclusion is that capacitor does not allow sudden change of voltage. Because, why? Because practical capacitive circuit has some time constant. The time constant is equal to RC. That T is equal to your RC. So because of that time constant, capacitor does not allow your allow sudden change of voltage. Why? Because there is tau. Tau is the time constant, and for capacitor, time constant equal to your RC. If in that circuit, resistance and capacitance is there. So that because of this time constant, capacitor does not allow sudden change of voltage, because practically the circuit will be having some time constant, and to allow sudden change of voltage across the capacitor, it is not possible to provide infinite current. Why? Here see dV by dt, and if time is equal to 0 means sudden change. Sudden change means this time equal to 0. If time equal to 0, then this term will become as a infinite. So current will be infinite. So practically it is not possible to provide infinite current. So capacitor does not allow sudden change of your voltage. Inductor does not allow sudden change of current, and capacitor does not allow sudden change of voltage. Under steady state condition, inductor acts as a short circuit, and under steady state condition, capacitor acts as open circuit. So this was about the two passive elements, capacitor and the inductor. So next class we'll move towards the next topic, that is we'll start the active elements, voltage source and current source, because we have completed all the passive elements, resistor, inductor and capacitance, basics of resistors, conclusions, basic concepts about resistors, and then inductor, basic concepts about inductor and some conclusions about inductor, and then capacitor also we have completed, linear, non-linear capacitor, linear, non-linear inductors, everything we have completed up to here. So next class will start as all our active elements. Thank you.